Hello, my friends. For today's beer review, we're going to be taking a look at Pelican Brewing Company MacPelican's Ale. Once again, we have another beer from the package that my buddy brought back to me from Portland, Oregon while he was away on business there. This is another one. This is my second one and my last one from Pelican Brewing Company. The first, if you remember, was their Maibach style lager called the Governor, which was a pretty good beer. This is their MacPelican's Ale. Now, I know that doesn't tell you much about the beer, but if we read the description on the back, then we'll know what kind of beer it is. It comes in at 5% alcohol by volume, which is pretty weak. It's about 0.5% to 1% more than your standard domestic brew. It has 16 IBUs, so virtually no bitterness to this beer. On the back, it tells about the brewery, which I read off last time, so I'm not going to read that again, but I will read the description. It says, MacPelican's Ale. Our interpretation of the Scottish export style is coppery amber in color and features a mild malty aroma. The malty flavor is balanced with Willamette hops to add a little snap to the flavor and finish off this rich, smooth ale. So, this is like a Scottish-style ale, and recently I've come aware that there is a big difference between a Scottish-style ale and a Scotch ale. Really. Scotch ales are like a peaty, smoky, caramelly, super malty beer, and they're usually thick and heavy, and then a Scottish-style ale is more like a double red or an amber, with still some malts and some characteristics of a Scotch ale, but not as heavy. Kind of like the porter to Scotch ale. It's sort of like a porter's like a lighter version of a stout. This is a Scottish style ale is a porter of a Scotch ale. Kind of confusing, I know. And that's just my own interpretation of the style, and I'm sure I'll find some brewery's beer who completely changes my opinion on it, but so far that's what it seemed like it is to me right now. Anyway, I'm going to drink this out of an amber glass today. Why is it an amber glass? Well, because of the shape, obviously, and because the beer is amber. So, without further ado, let's get the cap off of here and see what this beer is all about. Alright, straight into the glass. The color is a nice, rich rust color. Let's see if we can get a little bit of head on this. Alright, enough there for another glass easily. Formed about a finger of medium tan head into the light. It's a nice, rich, kind of coppery amber color, as it said. Not quite dark enough to be considered like mahogany or anything like that. There is just a tiny amount of bubbles streaming up from the sides of the walls, so I imagine the head's not going to stick around for very long. But let's give it a smell. There is definitely some malts there, and hops too, but there's a strange aroma on the back that almost reminds me of olives. Yeah, there's no mistaking that. It's got malts, a lot heavier on the malts, very light on the hops, and olive in the back. I know that sounds very strange, but that's what I'm smelling. More like green olive. It kind of has that sour, vinegary acidity to it that you don't get so much with black olives. And just the lightest touch of alcohol. Interesting smell. I can't wait to taste it and see if it matches the smell. But anyway, let's give MacPelican's Ale a try. Sure enough, there's just the lightest touch of olive in this. It's got plenty of malts up front. And there is a little bit of hops in the back. But there's just this strange green olive kind of note to it in the back. It's weird. I'm not sure how to decipher it, really. I think a lot of people could like this with that olive taste. I don't really care for it too much. It's kind of foreign to me to have a flavor like olives in my beer. but it's undeniable, unmistakable. There's no denying it. There's freaking olives in this beer as far as the taste goes, at least as far as my palate is perceiving it. It kind of grows on you a little bit, though. Kind of like your olives in your martini, or people who make a dirty martini with the olive juice or even pickle juice. It kind of grows on you. I will say, it's incredibly light and sessionable, smooth and easy drinking. I'd say it has a medium body. There's a little bit of creaminess to it. Definitely two things. This is what I call a food pairing beer and a session beer. This is something I could drink a whole lot of throughout the day if I was like hot or just really thirsty or just sitting around talking with friends. I could just session on this beer. And I call it a food pairing beer because it is not an experience or a journey to drink this beer on its own. It is not impressive standalone. It's more of like a beer that would pair well with foods. With that strange olive taste being in there, you may pair it with maybe like Mediterranean foods, perhaps like olive tapenade or hummus on pita, things like that. Things that are, and maybe even some things with vinaigrette, or I guess things like that. Maybe even like beef salad, meats that are going to have lots of acidity or kind of like a vinaigrette braise to them, things like that. That's what I would pair this with. It's an interesting beer, and I'm going to give it a pretty decent score just because I've never had a brewery emulate an olive taste in their beer. Now, judging by the label, I don't think that they necessarily intended for this to have an olive taste to it, but it certainly does, at least to me. I'm gonna give it like a 7.3 out of 10. It's an all right beer. Don't get me wrong, it's not nasty or anything. It's definitely drinkable, and I could session through this. But I think I would actually really enjoy having it with one of those aforementioned foods that I said earlier. I think it would go really well. But definitely a beer to pair with food. I wouldn't just sit down and drink one of these sipping it by the fire or anything like that. But would go great with some kind of acidic, vinegary, Mediterranean, vinaigrette sort of foods. But anyway, that has been Pelican Brewing Company, MacPelican's Ale. Hope you guys enjoyed the review as always, and stay tuned for the next one, my friends.